Fashion means the way that we style ourselves, the way we dress ourselves, how we're feeling that day, what sort of environment we're in, how we're going to interact with our environment on an everyday basis.
Fashion is everywhere. From New York to Tokyo, it doesn't matter where you live. And style, it's a personal choice, even for man's best friend.
Trends come and go, but fashion always rules.
Hi everyone, I'm Raymond Aranda. Welcome to Inbox.
And I'm Jennifer Schumacher.
When you think of fashion, you think of New York and runway shows. Well, in this episode, we'll give you that and more. The catwalk just ain't what it used to be.
Ain't that the truth? From the runways of New York City to the streets of San Francisco to a catwalk where no cat should be. Make like a supermodel and strut your stuff.
Ooh, work it, girl. Work it, work it, work it.
Fashion means the way, to me, means the way we express our personality.
Fashion is a privilege. Fashion gives me security. Fashion is my second skin.
Runway shows are an important way to showcase the venue, to showcase the brand, to introduce new items, to introduce the style. It's also a way for the brand to gauge the acceptance of their styles. And the fashion shows are great, they're exciting, they're 12 minutes long, which is hard to believe in terms of how much time and energy they put into them. But it's also what they're actually going to produce, because the buyers will then vote as to how they order the merchandise, as to whether or not the designers will produce those items. So many of the wow items that you see on the runway will actually never be produced. So they're an important way for people, for buyers and sellers to come together, just like, 5,000 years ago.
For the consumers, of course, it's another fantasy, and it's an opportunity for them to see what's going to be coming ahead. I think of runway fashion as an opportunity for people to get prepared for what's going to happen in a time frame that they can only hope that will happen now. So there's an anxiousness, and there's a hope, and there's a apprehension of what they're going to do later. And I think any of that, an opportunity to see something that you can't have now, is always really exciting.
That's the best party in town, and you want to be in the in crowd, and it's like being at school, the sort of the A-list crowd, and you want to be part of it. Fashion's a bit the same. So I think people want to be part of the glamour of that world. I think it's attractive to people, but also the runway shows show people what's happening next year, next season. It's not in the stores yet, so you're getting a taste of something to come, and it's very attractive and creates desire. So I think all of those things are fun.
It's interesting because we have had this real surge in popularity in fashion. My son, 5-10 years ago, knew who Marc Jacobs was and Louis Vuitton, and it was not something that I'd really anticipated. Why are they excited? Because we're excited about newness. We like all the internationalism that's going on and how we can become a new person almost. And maybe that has to do with the way we interact with the internet as well. But fashion is exciting. It's always changing, and it's never boring.
Coco Chanel says, in order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different. And I think, for me, fashion is to always try to be different. Fashion is the highest level of art form that I believe. You're trying to take the human body, which is the most incredible creation ever known to man, and you're trying to put some items on it to actually accentuate something that's already perfect. So when a designer is trying to work on the human body and they're trying to create something that accentuates something even more perfect, I consider that the best art form possible.
Next year, I see, because of where we are in terms of the political process, we'll have a presidential campaign in 2012. That's going to be a real bellwether as to how America thinks and how we interpret ourselves. I see we could return to more classics. I see we could return to classic tailoring. Certainly menswear has been getting a lot of attention these days in terms of suiting, Savile Row tailors, people being much more stylish and less casual, a lot more put together. Shirts for men are much more fitted, pants are much more fitted. And I see that as becoming a trend for women as well. Maybe a little bit more civility in terms of the way we're dressing, and maybe a little bit more traditional, maybe a little conservative, could be.
I think the trends next year will probably follow suit to a lot of the trends that are kind of happening and beginning this year. Tom Ford had made a statement saying, please don't call me Tom Ford, please call me Mr. Ford. And that's really not a disrespect to people or making him be stronger than he is. It's testimony to his idea that conservatism in clothing is really needs to have a resurgence, a reapproach. And I believe that's going to continue year after year for the next few years. I mean, I think fashion has become a little too sexy and become too casual. And I think it's a nod back to the idea of dressing up and letting your body be the sex symbol that it is internally.
What I have noticed where you have a world recession and an unstable economy, I do find that classics, a bit more boring, perhaps not so creative on the runway, but classics will sell because classics last. High fashion look can last for a season. If you're spending $2,000, you want it to last for at least 5 years. So I think designers have become more conservative about what they're making so that women and men will buy it. For example, a simple black dress at a slightly 1950s style that kind of fits the body. It's going to last for years. You put that down the runway, you'll sell it, people won't feel they're wasting their money.
At the end of the day, the consumer is really the one who makes the decisions. Even though the designers can come up with ideas and trends, really the consumer is who really makes the trends because they're the ones who actually make the trends come to life.
Coming up, we convince 3 ladies to step out of their comfort zone and try a different style.